Hi, this one is Sherman Swaps Shells by me, Jane Clarke, illustrated by Ant Parker. And Sherman is a hermit crab. Sherman, said Mum, you need a new shell. But I like this one, Sherman said. Look at the state of it. You've chipped it playing clawball. It won't keep you safe anymore. I'll be careful, Sherman said. Mum says, your old shell is worn out. Sherman says, but I like it like this. It's covered in tar and it's much too small, Mum said. Your shell doesn't fit you anymore. You've grown out of it. There's plenty of room at the end. Sherman wriggled his tail. It scraped against the pebble collection he kept at the bottom of his shell. You can't wear the same shell forever, said Mum. It's time for you to swap shells. Mum took Sherman by the claw and they scuttled off to the shell heap. Let's go swapping, she's saying. There's lots to choose from, said Mum. The waves bring in new shells all the time. This looks like a good one. Try it on. Someone might see, Sherman said. There's no need to be shy, Mum said. Sherman tried it on. It's too tight, he said. Yes, said Mum. How about that green one over there? Sherman slipped out of his old shell and into the green one. It's very smart, said Mum. It's very heavy, said Sherman. It's just right, said Mum. Sherman, you do look nice. A teenager strolled past. He was wearing a shell with huge spikes. Wow, said Sherman. Can I have one of those, please? Those shells are hard to find in your size, Mum said. There's one, said Sherman. I'll try it on. It's far too big, said Mum. Everyone's wearing them like this, said Sherman. Take it off, said Mum. You can have one when you're older. It's not fair, said Sherman. How about this one, Mum said. It's just like your old shell. Put it on. Do I have to? Yes, said Mum. If you're good, I'll take you to Urchin Express. So Sherman dived out of his old shell into the new one. Can I have a plankton shake? Get out of my shell, roared a voice. Sherman shot out backwards. Didn't your mother teach you to knock? The old hermit crab grumbled. Sherman, Mum was lobster pink. I'm very sorry, she told the old crab. He needs a new shell, you see. Come along, Sherman. We'll look over there. They didn't realise there was somebody in there. And Sherman's got kicked out. Sherman scuttled to the top of the shell heap. I like this one, he said, pointing to a sharp, spiky shell. It will never fit, Mum says. It will. Look. Sherman squeezed into the shell. It's a bit tight, he said. Take it off then, said Mum. Mum, Sherman tried to wriggle out of the shell. I'm stuck. I knew it, said Mum. Our bodies curve to the right. Most shells have spirals that curve to the right. That one curves to the left. That's why you're stuck. I'll pull you out, Mum said. You're pulling my leg off. Says, you can grow another. She grabbed Sherman's leg with her powerful claws and heaved. Woof! Sherman popped out. He counted his legs. They were all still there. He slunk back into his old shell. Now, Sherman's Mum said, we could spend all day trying to find another shell, or we can go back and get the green one that was just right and go to Urchin Express. What's the tide? Asked Sherman. High tide. There'll be plenty of fresh plankton. OK, said Sherman. We'll get the green shell. Sherman swapped shells. He emptied his pebble collection into the bottom of the new shell. There was plenty of room inside. He could collect more now. What shall I do with my old shell? Asked Sherman. Leave it here, said Mum. Someone else might want it. Sherman patted the shell with his claw. Goodbye, old shell, he said. I'll miss you. It was fun playing clawball with you. Urchin Express was very busy. It was full of young anemones waving their tentacles. There was a long queue. These are anemones. Tentacles. They crawled towards the counter. Sherman saying, why are those limpets pushing? There, those are limpets. And Mum says, because they are shellfish. Yeah, I know, sorry. They ordered and found an empty rock and sat down. "How's the plankton shake?" asked Mum. "Delicious." Sherman slurped the last drops through the straw. "Disgusting," said Mum. "It isn't even dead yet." And she nibbled on her piece of rotten fish. "I don't know how you can drink that stuff," she's saying. "I don't know how you can eat that stuff," Sherman's saying. "My new shell is heavy," Sherman said. "It's a good solid shell," said Mum. "Very sensible." "It'll look great with anemones stuck on it," said Sherman. "You're not sticking anemones on a brand new shell," said Mum. "But anemones are cool," said Sherman, "and they're great for playing hide and seek. No one would find me if I had anemones on my shell. Why can't I have anemones? It's not fair. I wish I had my old shell back." "Cheer up," said Mum. "Worse things happen at sea." Suddenly, a shadow blotted out the sun. Urchin Express went dark. The shadow reached into the rock pool. "What's happening? Hide!" The shadow scooped up Sherman. Higher and higher he went, higher than high tide. Sherman was frightened. He hid inside his new shell. The shadow's giant claw turned him upside down. And somebody's saying, "This shell will look great in my collection." Sherman's saying, "Gulp." "This is a nice shell," the shadow said. "I think I'll keep it." "I'm not a shell, I'm a hermit crab." Sherman nipped the shadow as hard as he could. The shadow yelled, "Ow, ow, ow! It nipped me." And Sherman flew through the air. "Let me go." Bump, bump, bump. Oh dear, ow. Sherman bounced down the rocks and fell into the pool. Sunlight danced across the rock pool. The shadow was gone. Plop, settling to the bottom. "Sherman, are you okay?" Mum, "I think so." "It's a good job you were wearing your new shell," said Mum. "Your old one would have broken." Everybody's saying, "What's going on?" Sherman met a person. "What was that shadow?" Sherman asked. "It was a person," Mum says. "You have to hide from people. People wouldn't see me if I had anemones on my shell." Said Mum. "So can I stick anemones on my shell?" "Okay," said Mum. "Great," said Sherman. "I think I'll like my new shell." Says, "Get your anemones here. No one will find me now." And Mum's saying, "I might get some too." So that is the end. And there is the rock pool with all the creatures that Sherman found and lives with. The end.